Welcome to the Blake Lab podcast. Not just theory, practical science for real people. I'm Dr. Ethan Blake, a physician and integrative medicine researcher at the Ravenshade Institute for Human Health. Let me ask you a question no one over 60 is asking, but absolutely should. What if the very fruit in your fridge, the one you trust, the one you eat with pride, is quietly setting the stage for a stroke in your sleep? Not junk food, not sugar bombs from the freezer aisle. I'm talking about fruit. Yes, fruit. Nature's candy, the so-called heart helpers and brain boosters we've all been told to eat more of. But after 30 decades treating older adults, patients who ate healthy, took their meds, and still suffered unexplained brain bleeds, memory loss, and sudden dizzy spells, I can tell you the truth is more complicated. In some bodies at a certain age, fruit isn't healing, it's hazardous. And the most dangerous part? There's no warning, no chest pain, no dizziness. You go to bed feeling fine and wake up unable to speak, unable to move, or not at all. Today, I'm going to walk you through 9 common fruits that may seem harmless or even virtuous, but when eaten at the wrong time or mixed with the wrong medication, can raise your stroke risk overnight. No fear, no fluff. Just what your brain deserves. The truth.
1. Bananas. Good for the heart, they said. Not quite. Bananas are the comfort food of health. Soft, natural, full of potassium, easy on the stomach. What could possibly go wrong? But here's what I need you to hear. Not as a fear-monger, but as a physician who's watched too many good people suffer quietly. If you're over 65 and taking blood pressure medication, especially at night, that innocent banana could be setting off a silent storm in your bloodstream. Let me explain. Yes, bananas are high in potassium. That's their selling point, right? Potassium helps lower blood pressure by helping the kidneys flush out sodium. Sounds like a win, until you stack it on top of a calcium channel blocker, an ACE inhibitor, or a diuretic already working overtime in your body. That's where the trouble begins. When you add potassium-rich bananas to medications that are already lowering your pressure, especially before bed, you increase the risk of nocturnal hypotension, a fancy phrase for your blood pressure dropping too low while you sleep. And here's what your doctor might not have told you. When you're asleep, your body's natural pressure already dips. Add in a banana and a blood pressure pill, and now your brain's not getting the blood flow it needs to stay alive and online. That's not a scare tactic, that's physiology. Let me tell you about a man I'll never forget. Mr. Charles, 78, retired mail carrier from Ohio. Disciplined, careful, took his meds on time, walked every morning. His nightly ritual? A banana sliced into his chamomile tea. Comforting, familiar. But one morning, his wife found him slumped in the recliner, right side numb, unable to speak. A stroke. No prior warning, no known risk, just a silent collapse in the night. We traced it back. His potassium levels were through the roof. His meds were doing their job too well. The banana had pushed his system over the edge. He wasn't lazy. He wasn't unhealthy. He was misinformed. And that's the pattern I keep seeing. Foods that once helped now backfire. The rules have changed, but no one told you. So here's the takeaway, plain and simple. If you're on blood pressure medication, skip the banana before bed. If you love it, have it in the morning, when your body's awake, alert, and ready to handle it. And please, tell your doctor how often you eat potassium-rich foods. Don't assume they know, because at this age, even a fruit can be too much of a good thing. And if bananas surprised you, wait until you hear about the next fruit, small, sweet, and sold as a heart helper, but capable of thinning your blood past the point of safety. Let's talk about grapes. Coming up next. 2. Grapes. Sweet, small, but quietly shaking your blood pressure like a snow globe. You've probably heard it before. Grapes are heart-healthy, full of antioxidants, great for digestion. And if you're over 60, they seem like the perfect snack. No prep, no mess, just pop a few in your mouth while watching the news or reading the paper. But what if I told you those innocent little fruits might be sabotaging your blood vessels without you knowing it? Let's break it down. Grapes are high in natural sugar, fructose. They also contain a compound called resveratrol, a plant-based polyphenol that's praised for its heart benefits. But here's what no one's telling you. Resveratrol acts like a natural blood thinner. Now, that's not automatically a problem, unless you're already on a medication like aspirin, Plavix, Xarelto, or warfarin. Then, you've got 2 blood thinners working at the same time, one prescribed, one from a fruit, and your body's balance starts slipping. Add that to the fact that your blood pressure naturally dips at night, and suddenly you've created the perfect storm. Thin blood, low pressure, fragile vessels, silent brain bleed. I know it sounds dramatic, but I've lived through this with my patients. Let me tell you about Mrs. Evelyn Harper, 82, retired school teacher from Virginia. Sharp mind, sweet spirit, never missed a church potluck. She kept a bowl of red grapes beside her recliner, her little treat instead of cookies. And she was doing everything right. Taking her daily low-dose aspirin as prescribed, staying active, eating fruit. One night, she got up to use the bathroom and collapsed halfway across the hallway. Severe headache, slurred speech, confusion. Her daughter called 911. The CT scan showed a small brain hemorrhage. A blood vessel had burst. She hadn't fallen. She hadn't hit a head. Her blood pressure wasn't even high. It was the combination, the daily aspirin plus the resveratrol in her evening grapes that had thinned her blood past its safe limit. A perfect, well-meaning, silent recipe for a stroke. And that's the thing. At this age, even healthy foods have chemical consequences. Your margin for error is smaller. Your medications are finely tuned. What used to be just a snack can now alter the way your blood flows, or doesn't. So here's what I tell my patients. If you're on a blood thinner, talk to your doctor about grapes. Don't panic, but don't ignore the possibility either. Limit them, time them earlier in the day, and don't combine them with other blood-thinning foods or supplements. And most importantly, listen to your body. If you've had unexplained headaches, lightheadedness, or bruising, your blood may already be too thin, and your brain is warning you. And this isn't just about grapes, because up next is a fruit we all know, love, and crave on hot days. Cool, refreshing, and hydrating. But inside its juicy red flesh, a compound that can open your blood vessels so wide your brain might not survive the night. Let's talk about watermelon.
3. Watermelon. Sweet, summery, and a silent trap for your brain. You know the drill. Hot day. You're tired. You open the fridge. There it is, that big bowl of cold watermelon. Juicy, refreshing. It feels healthy, hydrating, safe. And let's be honest, it reminds you of better times. family picnics, church potlucks, grandkids running barefoot in the yard. But here's what you're not being told. That slice of summer could be setting your blood pressure up to crash while you sleep. Let me explain. Watermelon is made up of over 90% water, great for hydration, but it also contains a compound called citrulline, which your body converts into nitric oxide, a powerful molecule that dilates your blood vessels. Translation? It opens them up. A lot. That sounds good in theory. Better blood flow, right? But combine that with the natural dip in blood pressure that happens during sleep, and you've just created what I call the midnight drop. A sudden plunge in blood pressure so deep your brain can't keep up. And when the brain doesn't get enough oxygen, you don't wake up refreshed. You wake up slurring your words, or not at all. I saw this play out with Mr. Anthony Reyes, 74, a retired high school baseball coach from New Mexico. A man full of life, still took walks every morning. No major health issues, just mild hypertension managed with medication. Every night after dinner, he had his light snack, a big bowl of watermelon. "It helps me sleep and stay cool," he told me. Until one morning his wife found him collapsed on the bathroom floor. He was conscious but couldn't speak clearly. One side of his face was drooping. At the hospital, the diagnosis was clear: stroke. But the why wasn't until we looked closer. His meds, combined with the vasodilating effects of watermelon and the natural nighttime dip in pressure, had sent his blood pressure spiraling downward. His brain didn't stand a chance. Here's the reality. Watermelon is not evil, but your body at 74 is not the same body it was at 40. Your arteries are more sensitive, your medications are working differently, and that harmless bedtime snack can suddenly act like a blood pressure bomb. So here's what I recommend. If you enjoy watermelon, eat it earlier in the day. Avoid it after dinner, especially if you're on meds for blood pressure or circulation. And pay attention to how you feel in the morning. Lightheadedness, grogginess, brain fog. These might be signs your pressure is dipping too low overnight. And before we move on to the next surprising fruit, here's something I'd like you to do for yourself. If this episode has you rethinking your fruit bowl, tap that subscribe button and hit the bell icon. Not for me, for your brain. This podcast is here to help you take back control of your health with clarity, not confusion. And if you've ever thought watermelon was just a snack, wait until you hear what happens when the next fruit, tropical, golden, and oh so trendy, interferes with your blood's ability to clot. You might be drinking it in your smoothie right now. Let's talk about pineapple.
4. Pineapple. Tropical, golden, and a clotting crisis waiting to happen. Pineapple. That bright, juicy bite of the islands. It's the fruit of luau's, smoothies, backyard grills, and beach memories. And for many seniors, it feels like the healthy choice. It's not cake, it's not chips, it's fruit, real fruit. But what if I told you that pineapple contains an enzyme so powerful it can quietly override your blood's ability to clot, especially if you're already on heart meds? Here's what most people don't know, and frankly, what most doctors forget to say out loud. Pineapple is loaded with bromelain. Bromelain is a natural enzyme that reduces inflammation and thins the blood. Now pause right there. You might be thinking, thinning the blood is good, right? That's what my doctor wants. Sure, to a point. But if you're already taking medications like Plavix, Eliquis, warfarin, or even baby aspirin, bromelain isn't helping. It's stacking. You're double thinning. And in an aging body, where blood vessels are more delicate and brain tissue more sensitive, that stacking can tip the scales from safe to
to stroke. Let me tell you about Mrs. Lorraine Brooks, 79, retired choir director from Georgia. Sharp, strong-willed, still sang solos in her church. Her morning ritual, a bowl of yogurt with fresh-cut pineapple, every single day. And why not? She read it helped with digestion and joint pain, natural, holistic, gentle. Until the morning, her daughter found her slumped over at the breakfast table, dizzy, confused, and unable to form full sentences. At the ER, we saw what had happened. A small brain bleed, a hemorrhagic stroke. Her blood had gotten too thin to stop even the smallest vessel from rupturing. No fall, no trauma, just fruit, plus a prescription blood thinner. We pieced it together later. The bromelain in the pineapple had quietly enhanced the effects of her meds day by day. No symptoms, no warnings, until everything slipped. She survived, thank God, but her voice, once rich and strong, now comes out soft and shaky. And her words to me that day still echo. I thought I was healing myself. No one told me fruit could fight against my meds. That's the heartbreak. We associate natural with harmless. But when you're over 65, the chemistry changes. Your liver is slower, your kidneys more vulnerable, and your medications are often riding a razor-thin balance. So here's what I want you to remember. If you're on a blood thinner, even a low-dose one, limit fresh pineapple, especially raw or juiced. Don't stack nature on top of your prescriptions without checking with your doctor. And listen, I'd love to hear from you directly. Has a healthy habit ever surprised you? Something you thought was helping that ended up hurting? Drop a comment and share your story below. I read every one. Because sometimes the best medical insight doesn't come from textbooks. It comes from real people finally connecting the dots. And if pineapple shocked you, wait until you hear about the next one. Golden, soft, and deceptively sweet. This fruit has more sugar than a can of soda and can send your blood pressure and insulin into a tailspin by morning. Let's talk about mangoes next.
5. Mango. Sweet like dessert, spikes like a drug. Mangoes are magic, right? Golden, velvety, fragrant, like summer in your hand. For many older adults, it's the healthy swap, better than cake, they say. And on paper, it looks good. Fiber, antioxidants, vitamin C. But here's what's hiding behind that tropical glow. A single cup of ripe mango packs more sugar than a can of soda. And when you're over 65, especially if you're managing blood pressure or blood sugar, that sugar doesn't just sit politely in your bloodstream, it surges. Let me explain why this matters. As we age, our ability to process glucose slows down. Our insulin response becomes blunted. And many older adults, even those without diabetes, are already living in a quiet state of insulin resistance without knowing it. Now take that system already struggling and drop a sugar bomb into it. That mango you ate after dinner? It just spiked your glucose. And in response, your body jacked up your insulin, heart rate, and blood pressure all at once. Sounds temporary. But night after night, this becomes a pattern, and patterns become pathology. Let me tell you about Mr. Harold Davis, 76, retired factory worker from Michigan. Quiet man, lived alone, loved routines. Every night after dinner, he sliced up a mango and ate it with a spoon right out of the skin. "It's my comfort," he told me, "better than pie." Until one morning, he woke up with blurred vision and a pounding headache. He stood up, collapsed. By the time he got to the ER, he couldn't move his left hand and was slurring his words. A transient ischemic attack, a mini-stroke. His blood sugar had spiked in the night. His pressure had followed, and the vessels in his brain just couldn't take it. His doctor had warned him about sugar, but no one told him the mango counted. And that's what frustrates me most. Natural is not the same as safe. And fruit, especially fruit this sweet, isn't always your friend after 60. So here's the practical truth. If you love mangoes, eat them earlier in the day, when your body's active, insulin is working, and your vessels are more responsive. Avoid them at night, especially if you're on blood pressure or diabetes medications. And if you're borderline diabetic or prone to headaches in the morning, that late-night fruit bowl might be whispering a warning. And if this resonates with you, if you've ever thought, "I had no idea mangoes could do that," do me a favor, leave a quick 1 in the comments. Not just for me, but for someone else reading who might realize they're not the only one learning all this the hard way. And next, we're heading into citrus territory, oranges and grapefruit, the breakfast classics, the immune boosters, the safe fruits your doctor may have never warned you about until they collided with your heart medication and took a swing at your brain. Let's go there. Up next, citrus and stroke risk.
6. Oranges and grapefruit. Fresh, bright, and dangerously interactive. It's iconic. A half grapefruit with your toast, a glass of OJ next to your morning meds. It feels like the picture of health, sunshine in a cup. For years, we've been told citrus is the golden ticket: vitamin C, heart protection, immune support. But let me tell you something most doctors won't bring up unless you press them, and even fewer patients realize on their own. Grapefruit, and to a lesser extent oranges, can interfere with how your body processes medication. And that can quietly flood your bloodstream with more drug than your brain can handle. Here's the science. Grapefruit contains compounds called furanocoumarins, and these block a critical enzyme in your liver called CYP3A4. That enzyme's job? To break down many of the drugs you take. So when you eat grapefruit or drink the juice, your liver can't break down your meds as usual. The result? Your medications linger. They build up. They act stronger than prescribed. Which meds, you ask? Statins, like Lipitor, Zocor. Blood pressure drugs, like amlodipine, felidipine. Blood thinners. Anti-anxiety or heart rhythm meds. That peaceful breakfast combo? Suddenly, you've got a stronger than intended dose pulsing through your bloodstream with no label flashing red. I had a patient, Mrs. Carolyn Mitchell, 80, retired nurse from Tennessee. Disciplined, sharp as a tack, always took her meds with military precision. Each morning, she took her blood pressure pills, her statin, her low-dose aspirin, and then sat with her Bible and a glass of freshly squeezed grapefruit juice. It was a ritual, a routine, a comfort. Until one day, her daughter found her on the couch, eyes open, but not quite there. CT scan? Small cerebral bleed. Her blood pressure had crashed. The statin in her system had built up over time, undetected, until it quietly reached toxic levels. And that grapefruit juice she drank every morning with love? It had been blocking her liver's safety valve. She told me later, "I did everything the same way for years. I just didn't know the rules had changed." And that's the haunting truth for so many seniors. Your body at 70 doesn't process medications the same way it did at 40. Your liver filters slower. Your blood vessels are more fragile. And your margin for error, especially when it comes to strokes, is razor thin. So, what should you do? If you're on any medications, statins, blood pressure drugs, anti-clotting agents, Avoid grapefruit unless your doctor explicitly clears it. Even orange juice in large amounts can amplify drug effects or spike your blood sugar if taken without food. And if you've ever felt dizzy after your morning routine, had heart palpitations after breakfast, or bruised more easily than usual, don't shrug it off. Your body might already be trying to tell you something. And I want to hear from you, because I know this episode hits close to home. Have you ever found out too late that a healthy habit was interfering with your medication? Leave a comment. Your story might be the one that helps someone else finally connect the dots. Now, if you think citrus is the only fruit pulling strings behind the scenes, wait until you meet the next one. It's a superfood, a media darling, the brain berry they call it. But for seniors on blood thinners or heart meds, it might just be the quietest clotting disaster in your fridge. Let's talk about blueberries next.
7. Blueberries, the brain berry that might be thinning your blood too much. You've seen the headlines. Top 10 brain foods. Eat this to prevent dementia. And what's always front and center? Blueberries. They're small, sweet, and marketed like magic. Sprinkle them on oatmeal. Blend them into smoothies. Pop them like vitamins. And yes, they do contain antioxidants, polyphenols, and compounds that support brain health. In theory. But here's what they don't put on the wellness blogs. Blueberries contain high levels of natural salicylates, the same compound family as aspirin. In the body, these compounds can act as blood thinners. Now, imagine you're over 65. You're on Plavix, maybe a baby aspirin or a bit of warfarin. You also have AFib or a history of TIA. And every morning, you drink a smoothie packed with blueberries, flaxseed, and maybe even spinach. You feel virtuous, clean, healthy. But what you don't feel is what's happening inside your bloodstream. Your blood is thinning, slowly, steadily, silently, beyond what your doctor intended. And when blood gets too thin, one tiny vessel in the brain, one capillary weakened by age, is all it takes to rupture. Not with a bang, not with a fall, just overnight. Let me tell you about Mr. Dean Wallace, 81. Retired Air Force, independent, still jogged 3 days a week. He was proud of his routine, took his blood thinner faithfully, exercised, and drank his brain smoothie like clockwork. Then one morning he stood up and fell. His speech slurred, his vision doubled. He couldn't move the right side of his body. The ER confirmed it. Minor hemorrhagic stroke. Not from trauma, not from sky-high blood pressure, but from blood that was too thin to clot, pushed past its limit by the stacking effects of blueberries and medication. When we reviewed his labs, his INR was dangerously high, and no one had warned him about how even natural foods could influence its effect. He looked at me and said, "Doc, I thought I was doing everything right. I didn't know blueberries could behave like medicine." And that right there is the message I want every older adult to understand. Superfoods are still foods, and in an aging body, food is chemistry. So, if you're on a blood thinner, or if your doctor tracks your INR regularly, don't go wild with blueberries. Keep portions small. Don't stack them with other natural thinners like turmeric, ginger, or even grapes. And always, always tell your doctor what's in your smoothie. And if any of this is making light bulbs go off in your head, I'd love to know. What's one food you thought was 100% safe that you're now rethinking? Drop it in the comments.
you might just help someone avoid the same mistake. And next, we're heading into unexpected territory. A fruit that's clean, crisp, classic. We've been told it keeps the doctor away. But in some older adults, especially those on blood pressure meds, it might just drop your blood pressure too far and too fast during your most vulnerable hours. Let's talk about apples next.
8. Apples. Clean, classic, and quietly tipping your pressure over the edge. An apple a day keeps the doctor away. You've heard it. I've heard it. It's the health slogan of America, right up there with milk mustaches and 10,000 steps. But here's what that rhyme doesn't tell you. In some older adults, especially those on blood pressure meds, apples can quietly drop your pressure too low. Let's break it down. Apples contain a compound called quercetin, a plant flavonoid found mostly in the skin. It's anti-inflammatory, it relaxes blood vessels, and yes, it lowers blood pressure. Sounds like a benefit, right? But stack that on top of beta blockers, ACE inhibitors, or calcium channel blockers, and suddenly, your body isn't just managing blood pressure, it's overcorrecting. And when does this get most dangerous? At night. Because while you sleep, your blood pressure naturally dips. Add a quercetin-loaded apple on top of your evening meds, and that dip becomes a drop, one your brain might not recover from. Let me tell you about Mr. Leonard Briggs, 84, retired accountant, lived in a senior community, careful, routine-oriented. He'd had a minor stroke years ago, nothing major, and since then, he was meticulous with his meds. Dinner at 6, meds at 7. And at 8, like clockwork, a sliced Fuji apple with a glass of water while watching the evening news. Simple. Harmless. Until one morning, he didn't show up for breakfast. Staff found him in bed, awake, but confused. His words jumbled. He couldn't sit up on his own. At the hospital, his blood pressure was dangerously low. A scan showed signs of a mild ischemic stroke, likely caused by reduced blood flow during the night. And when we reviewed everything, it wasn't the meds alone. It was the combination of his apple habit and medication, both working to lower his pressure at the same time his body was already at rest. A fruit, a pill, a nap. That's all it took. He recovered, thankfully, but reading and short-term memory have been harder since. He told me later, "I never imagined an apple could take me out." And that's the exact trap we fall into. Harmless doesn't mean harmless after 70, because at this age, everything's connected. Your meds, your fruit, your timing. Your morning fog or sudden dizziness isn't random. It might be your body trying to warn you. So here's what I recommend. If you're on blood pressure medication, move your apples to the daytime. Eat them with food, not alone. And if you ever feel lightheaded getting out of bed, or your vision goes dark for a second, tell your doctor. That may be your pressure dipping too far. And if you're still with me, thank you. Seriously, this episode's not about fear, it's about awareness. Drop a comment and let me know, what's one food you never questioned that you're now looking at differently? And don't go anywhere, because up next is the fruit that gets added to water bottles, detox drinks, and morning rituals all across America. But for seniors, especially those with kidney issues or on heart meds, it can quietly tip your blood chemistry into danger. Let's talk about lemons, coming up next. 9. Lemons. Tart, trendy, and not always safe for the senior body. It's the wellness cliché of the decade. Warm lemon water in the morning. Flush toxins, boost digestion, alkalize your system. Sounds clean, feels clean. And for many older adults, it's become a daily ritual, like prayer or brushing teeth.
But let me tell you what I've seen after decades treating seniors who thought they were doing everything right. Lemons may be natural, but they're not neutral. They're loaded with citric acid, vitamin C, and compounds that alter how your body absorbs medications. Yes, you heard that right. Lemon juice can enhance drug absorption, meaning that your blood pressure pill, your blood thinner, or your anti-inflammatory hits harder than intended. And when your liver's already slower, when your kidneys aren't filtering like they used to, and when your meds are carefully calibrated to stay just right, that innocent splash of lemon can tip your system into a place it's no longer built to handle. Let me give you a story. Mrs. Helen Crawford, 77, retired schoolteacher from South Carolina. Smart, gentle. She drank lemon water 3 times a day, swore it helped her stay regular and focused. She was also on a beta blocker and a low-dose blood thinner following a mild stroke 2 years prior. No one warned her that lemon could intensify the effect of those medications. Until, one afternoon, sitting peacefully on her porch, she suddenly felt lightheaded, confused, and couldn't form a sentence. Her daughter rushed her to the ER. Brain bleed. Not from trauma, not from a new stroke, but from blood that had gotten too thin and pressure that dropped too far, silently amplified by that steady stream of lemon water. We traced it back. Not a new drug, not an overdose, just a routine that her aging body could no longer tolerate. I thought lemon water was harmless, she told me in recovery. I never thought it had any impact on my diet. Nobody said I had to stop when I got older. And that's the whole point. No one says, not your juice box, not the internet, not even your pharmacist, unless you ask the right question. So here it is. If you're taking heart meds, kidney meds, or blood thinners, and you drink lemon water daily, talk to your doctor. Ask whether citrus might be interacting with your prescriptions. And if you've noticed ringing in your ears, weird bruises, dizziness, or sudden fatigue, don't ignore it. Your body might be waving a yellow flag. And I want to ask you something before we move into the final chapter of this episode. Did any of these fruits surprise you? Leave a comment. Not for clicks, for community. Because there's someone else your age out there who's never been told any of this, and your story might be the one that changes theirs. Now, we've talked about bananas, grapes, watermelon, pineapple, mango, citrus, blueberries, apples, and lemons. 9 fruits, all praised for health, all potentially risky for the wrong body at the wrong time with the wrong meds. So, what now? What's the safe way forward? How do you nourish your brain without risking your balance? How do you eat in your 70s and 80s without fear, but with wisdom? That's exactly what I'll cover next. Part 10, the new rules for fruit for the aging brain. Let's get practical.
So, what should you do? The new rules of fruit after 65. You've made it through 9 fruits, dozens of stories, and one very real truth. The body you have now does not follow the same rules as the body you had at 40. And that's not a tragedy. That's not weakness. That's biology. Your kidneys filter slower. Your liver breaks down meds differently. Your blood vessels are more sensitive. Your brain, that brilliant, fragile, utterly irreplaceable organ, depends on tiny details to stay safe. So here's what I tell every patient who sits across from me, frustrated or afraid after hearing all this. Don't fear food. Respect it.
and learn to partner with your body again, not fight it. Let me give you 5 practical steps you can start today. 1. Rethink your relationship with fruit. It's not good or bad, it's powerful. Move high-sugar fruits like mangoes, bananas, and grapes to early in the day. Limit nighttime fruit. Your brain doesn't need a sugar surge while it's sleeping. And if you're on blood pressure or blood sugar meds, portion control is non-negotiable. 2. Know your medications. I'm not talking about memorizing Latin names. I mean know what class they're in. Blood thinners? Then blueberries, grapes, pineapple, and citrus need to be monitored. On statins, grapefruit is a big no unless cleared. Beta blockers? That evening apple could be more than a snack. It could be a pressure drop. Ask your doctor or pharmacist which foods might interact with my meds. If they roll their eyes, find someone who won't. 3. Time your food with intention. Morning equals metabolism up. Night equals blood pressure down. That means eat your fruit when your body is alert and active. Avoid sugary or vasodilating fruits before bed. Pair fruit with protein or fat to slow sugar absorption. 4. Watch for subtle symptoms. Your body whispers before it screams. Don't ignore dizziness in the morning, ringing in the ears, bruising easily, fatigue after fruit. These aren't just aging. They might be your brain trying to get your attention. 5. Build a relationship with your doctor, not just a checklist. Bring them this episode if you have to. Say, here's what I'm learning about food and meds. What applies to me? You're not being difficult. You're being awake. Let me close with this. You don't need a detox. You don't need another miracle berry. What you need is precision, awareness, courage to question what used to work, and a new rhythm, one that honors the body you have now. And I'll ask one last thing. If this episode helped you, inspired you, or made you pause, share it with a spouse, a friend, your church group, your doctor. Because someone out there is still eating a bowl of grapes every night, not knowing they're skating on thin ice. Leave a comment with one thing you're taking away. Not for me, but for others reading. Let's build a community where aging doesn't mean guessing. It means learning. Together. Thank you for spending this time with me. Your brain deserves the truth and a future. And this was one step toward that future. Until next time, stay sharp and stay curious. I'm Dr. Ethan Blake. This is the Blake Lab Podcast.